Big news coming out of Raider Nation. Aidan O'Connell has suffered a fractured right wrist and is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Pete Carroll confirmed the update, and this puts the Raiders in a tough spot. With O'Connell sidelined, there's a strong chance the team will start looking for another quarterback. Now, Cam Miller is talented, but he's still developing and not quite ready to take over full-time. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders add another QB before the 53-man roster cutdown on Tuesday, August 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Before we dive deeper into this breaking news, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss the latest Raiders updates. Let's get into it. The Raiders just wrapped up a 20-10 loss to the Arizona Cardinals, dropping to 0-1 this preseason. But honestly, I'm not hitting the panic button. The starters actually looked solid, the defense held up well, the offense moved the ball, and there were plenty of flashes of what this team can be. The real issue tonight was depth. If you want to make the postseason, if you want a serious playoff run, your second and third units have to step up, and right now the Raiders' depth just isn't where it needs to be. That's something the front office is going to need to address. Offensively, things slowed down after that first touchdown. The team couldn't put points on the board for the final 3 quarters, and that's concerning. With O'Connell hurt, Cam Miller looked every bit like a rookie, still learning, still adjusting. Defensively, the Cardinals gashed the Raiders for over 220 rushing yards, with too many missed tackles, especially in the open field. These are mistakes that can be fixed, but they stood out tonight. Still, there were bright spots too. Geno Smith looked sharp in this Chip Kelly system, completing 2 of 3 passes for 26 yards, including a touchdown strike to Dont'e Thornton Jr. It was great to finally see Thornton in the end zone. So yes, the scoreboard shows another preseason loss. But when you look closer, the starting offense gave me confidence. I really believe this Raiders team has the weapons to put up points once the regular season kicks off. One thing that really worries me moving forward is the possibility of giving up a lot of points ourselves. And of course, the biggest storyline of the night was Aidan O'Connell. He left the game very early, which turned the spotlight completely onto Cam Miller. During the game, I got word that O'Connell's wrist injury was more serious than it first looked. That instantly raised the question, could the Raiders be forced to add another quarterback? With a 53-man roster cutdown set for Tuesday, August 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern, the timing couldn't be tougher. If O'Connell's injury turns out to be long-term, don't be shocked if the front office explores free agency or even a trade to bring in another QB. Personally, I don't like the idea of giving up draft picks or scrambling for a free agent who might not be much better than what we already have. Now let's talk about Cam Miller. In that first preseason game, he showed real flashes of talent, but tonight we were reminded that he's still a rookie. He finished 12 of 24 for 102 yards, not terrible, but not sharp either. He's got mobility, he can use his legs when needed, but his decision-making still needs work. I noticed several times he locked onto his throws too early, and that's something defenses will take advantage of. It's clear he needs more time to grow and develop. Bottom line, losing O'Connell for weeks is a big concern. Miller has potential, but throwing him into the fire this soon could be risky. The Raiders need to make a smart decision here, because the wrong move could cost them when the real games begin. First off, I have to say the energy from Raider Nation yesterday in Tucson was unbelievable. The passion, the noise, the love for this team. It honestly felt like a family reunion. That's what makes this fan base so special, the commitment and excitement you bring every single time. Now let's talk football. One of the biggest highlights of the night was rookie Dont'e Thornton Jr. The coaching staff has been pushing hard all preseason to get the ball down the field to him, and tonight it finally paid off. Thornton hauled in a tough touchdown grab, and while I was expecting a bigger celebration from him, the real story was that he made a contested catch look easy. What impressed me even more was another one of his receptions that didn't make the highlight reel. It was physical, it was a battle, and he came down with it. That tells me he's not just a deep threat, he can fight for those tough yards too. If Thornton keeps showing that kind of grit, he's got the tools to become a truly special piece of this Raiders offense. Looking at the bigger picture, the offense started strong. Geno Smith looked comfortable and in rhythm. Ashton Jeanty ran with toughness. and guys like Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker got their early chances as well. Credit to Pete Carroll for rolling out his starters in a preseason game. Not every coach does that, and it gave us a clearer picture of where this team stands. Defensively, there were some positives too. Tyree Wilson looked like a beast, bringing the kind of energy you want to see from a young pass rusher. On the flip side, the secondary had its struggles, something that has to be cleaned up fast. One name that stood out in a bad way was Darian Porter. His performance was concerning. But Wilson, he looked like a straight-up dog out there, the kind of player who can set the tone for this defense. Malcolm Koonce finally showed flashes of the player we've all been waiting to see, and that was one of the bright spots. But even with that, there's a real concern in this defense that can't be ignored. The linebackers can fly downhill, sure, but the question remains, can they hold up in coverage? Right now, that's a weakness. Add in the fact that our depth across the board just isn't strong enough, and it paints a picture of what this season could look like. The secondary, in particular, feels thin, and if things don't tighten up, the Raiders could find themselves in a lot of high-scoring shootouts. That's exciting for fans who love offense, but dangerous for a team trying to win meaningful games. If you're giving up points as quickly as you're scoring them, it's hard to build momentum. And then there's Aidan O'Connell. His early exit due to that wrist injury changes everything. I was told it's more serious than it first appeared, which is concerning. Walking off that early in the game wasn't a good sign, and until we know the full diagnosis, the Raiders' quarterback situation feels like a big question mark. This team has talent, no doubt about it, but without depth, especially on defense, and with uncertainty under center, the Raiders are going to be tested hard in the weeks ahead. When Aidan O'Connell walked off to the locker room, the concern was immediate. A few people close to the medical staff told me right away, this injury looks more serious than anyone first thought. That raises a huge question. Does he even make the 53-man roster? Or does he start the season on injured reserve? We'll find out soon, but if the coaches don't believe he'll be ready for week 1, the Raiders might have no choice but to bring in another quarterback. Sure, Tommy Mallet is an option in a pinch, but relying on him feels risky. And while Cam Miller has talent, tonight made it clear he's still just a rookie. For his sake, he needs time to grow, not to be thrown into the fire too early. Now shifting to the defense, let's talk about Tyree Wilson. This guy has been turning heads all camp, and once again tonight, he delivered. 3 preseason games in, a strong showing in the mock scrimmage, and everything out of training camp has been positive. Wilson looks like he belongs. The only real blemish came on that 3rd and long run where Arizona decided to hand it off. It should have been a short gain, but it turned into a 30-plus yard play. Wilson had a chance to make the stop and just missed it. Plays like that have to be cleaned up, because those are the difference makers in close games. But overall, Wilson looks like a future cornerstone. And speaking of standouts, Zamir White deserves credit too. He ran with real power and confidence, showing he can carry the load when called upon. And if we're talking about dominance, you can't forget Max Crosby. He barely played, but in just a couple snaps he made his presence felt. A huge tackle for loss, pure energy, pure chaos for the offense. Max looks ready to go for the regular season. Bottom line, some questions remain at quarterback, but the defense showed flashes of what it could be. Wilson, White, and Crosby gave Raider Nation plenty of reasons to feel excited. On offense, one name jumps out right away. Dante Thornton Jr. His talent is obvious, and every time he's on the field you can feel the potential. Another player worth mentioning is Dylan Parham, who has looked much improved this preseason. But the defensive side might be even more exciting. If you asked me which player has grown the most from the start of the offseason until now, the answer is easy. Tyree Wilson. His development has been incredible, and his confidence keeps growing every week. You could even throw Jamal Adams into that conversation, but Wilson is the one who's impressed me the most. And if this team wants to push for the playoffs, guys like that have to keep stepping up. Now, a lot of people were wondering why Cam Miller didn't throw more tonight. For me, the answer is simple. The Raiders were running the offense they planned to run. Remember, the whole script got thrown off once O'Connell went down. And Cam isn't the type of quarterback you just drop back and let sling it 40 times. That's not his game. What he can do is thrive in an RPO system, mix in the run, keep defenses off balance, and make smart throws when needed. That's how you get the best version of Cam Miller, not by forcing him to play a style that doesn't fit. As for roster battles, one guy who made a real statement tonight was Zamir White. Honestly, the only way he doesn't make the 53-man roster is if he gets traded, because he looks sharp out there. He's leaner, quicker, and his footwork looked better than ever. That's the same Zamir White we saw flashes of in 2023, the guy who runs hard and sets the tone for the offense. Bottom line, Thornton showed talent. Parham took a step forward, Wilson looked like a future star, and Zamir White reminded everyone why he belongs. Those are the kind of performances that give this team a chance to be more than just competitive. If there's one weakness that stood out this preseason, it's the secondary. And honestly, the player who struggled the most was Darian Porter. When the Raiders drafted him in the 3rd round, the expectation was that he'd be ready to compete right away. But right now, he looks raw, too raw for the role he's been asked to play. Porter reminds me of a rookie corner who has talent but hasn't put it all together yet. His technique isn't sharp, he's giving receivers way too much separation, and the confidence just isn't there. That doesn't mean he won't develop in time, but at this moment, opposing quarterbacks are finding him and picking on him. If the Raiders don't add another corner, this could become a real problem once the regular season begins. But let's zoom out for a second. This was another hard-fought preseason game, and like always, Raider Nation showed up with unmatched passion. That's what makes this fan base different. The energy, the commitment, the way you ride with this team no matter what, it's second to none. Yes, there are concerns with depth. Yes, injuries are testing the roster. But there are also bright spots, players stepping up, future stars showing flashes, and a foundation being built. That's what preseason is about, learning what you have, what you still need, and where the growth will come from. So, as the roster cutdown approaches and tough decisions are made, one thing is certain, this team is still a work in progress, but the fight is there. And Raider Nation, as always, you'll be right there for every step of it.